So we were talking about the group, doing the embodiment work, balance head, heart, and body. And then you said, oh, that's right.
Yeah,
the
and one
Enneagram.
more resource that, I think that's really good, especially if you want to read written summaries. They do have one of the tests that you can take is the Enneagram Institute.
That's where I did my test.
Yeah, and I think I probably sent you there
I
to
don't
do
know.
it.
Because remember, I was like,
There's ones you can pay for, and then there's ones that are free.
I did not do
So-
the paid for one. I should disclose that I didn't do that.
And I don't think, I mean, again, it's just a place for you to start. So you really have to dive in. It just kind of, there's 9 numbers to start with, but you need to be able to filter out some and get some direction. And so I think that,
You did yours on mytype.enneagram.
well, I've done a couple of different ones. Yeah.
I did mine on Truity. I lied. Truity.com.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is either, but apparently it's out there
Yeah.
and it lets you do a free version and then you
a
can
cost-
pay to
yeah.
unlock your full report. But the Enneagram Institute I went on when I was kind of deep diving on our conversations
Yeah.
and I actually have it pulled up right here.
Yes. So one of the things that I also love about this is they've got a section that'll describe you in the types, but then they also have a section where it'll talk about interactions between 2 numbers, what is a relationship positive and a relationship negative between a 2 and a 3. And so it'll kind of give you the minefields that you could work on, but then it also tells you what you would really be strong in. So that's on that side too, which is
So I
pretty
pulled
awesome.
this up. It said, interpreting your test results. Brief overview.
Nice.
For most people, it's clear what your basic type is. If your highest score is much higher, 3-4 points or more than the rest of your scores, it's most likely your basic personality type. And you can confirm this by reading about it. And this is if you have ones that's a close tie.
Yeah.
Which is what I did.
Yes, you did.
Because mine was 7 and 8. And 8 was the highest and 7 and 3.
An 8 could easily be your main type and a 7 could be your dominant wing. And so that
feel
could
like that makes
also
sense.
be one of the things.
But then I thought wings, again, were kind of, but that's just because I do that very easily. I thought the wing, they were saying, had to be in a specific realm or whatever.
It just has to be next to you.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't matter if it's in the same gut,
No,
head.
it doesn't have to be in the same triad. It just is whichever one of the 2 that's next to you. So right now I'm living strongly in my 3 wing 4 space. So
Interesting. What is 4? I don't remember
4 is, it's funny because a 3 is a performer and
Yeah.
4 is a deeply feeling, highly conscious of authenticity. So there's a little bit of inherent conflict between a 3 that gets on stage and performs and a 4 that's you aren't authentic. And then,
interesting.
but 4s can be very emotional, very expressive. A lot of artists will be 4s. There's a high need to be seen as individual and special. And so, so
That's interesting because I don't know what it is. Maybe I really need to see this person who does this thing because I feel like I am 8, 7, 3, 2, 1, and then my 4, 5, 6 are the smallest.
right.
But then when you talk about the number 4, then I identify with it. And I'm really kind of curious what my husband, you really took the test? Okay, I really, really want to know. No? What? You gonna tell me later? Oh, you did? Am I allowed to look at it now?
But again,
Are you gonna guess first?
so here, well, but see, it's really
I
about
feel like you're a performer like her.
you have to self-identify. You really have to wrestle with
How did
what
you
is
feel about it?
motivating you, what's at the core motivating you to express in this way. And so so just to dive a little bit between a 7 and a 3, a 3 really the 3 experience was, background. So my dad died when I was 10. My mom is autistic. And so to her best ability, she was taking care of 3 young children and didn't have the emotional language to be emotionally responsive. So the only place that I really got attention was in church. So my audience became to be seen, to get attention, to get someone to pay attention to me. I had to be special and sing because I could sing. And so I could be on stage and people would be like, oh my gosh, you have a beautiful voice. Or it was about being a good Christian and being godly and becoming a good wife and mother, because that was the metric of performance that would give me love of and attention of other people, affirmation, and by God. So my motivation was to get love, and it was expressed in, and my coping mechanism was to be seen. I had to perform in these ways. I had to meet these standards. I had to achieve in this structure. A 7 has a fear of missing out or a fear of deprivation, that they're not going to have enough of whatever it is. So they can still be out front more, be seen, be loud, be fun, in order to make sure that they don't ever do without. But the look can be the same. And so figuring out like, what's at the heart of that? What's driving that? And so I really had to understand, for me, the key piece was understanding who my audience was. Like, what was the driver thing? Who was I performing for? And when I realized that I was performing for the church and for God, because that was the only place I was getting attention and affirmation and affection, that helped me land in my 3-ness and understand that was where I was trying to get love. So now my work is, okay, if I know I'm driven to behave and perform in order to get love, and I've recognized that this was the structure where I was seeking it, am I in danger of just replacing the structure? Or am I really doing the work of understanding that I need to love myself well, and that I can give myself love and I can affirm myself without having to achieve? Because it is an Achilles heel. Like, I am good at achieving. I am high functioning. I am a high achiever. These are my strengths, and I can show up in the world in a way that benefits the world. But can I do it in a way where I'm not doing it in order to get back the affirmation?
But some people, and this would be, my husband was bringing this up the other day, said, isn't the base of everything transactional? And aren't all humans transactional in their relationships?
So, but is that healthy or not healthy?
Some people would argue that it is. And if you're on spectrum, I would stand to assume that that is how they perceive the world. It's not emotionally like motivated, so it's not bad.
Well,
but that's
so I would argue about the emotional piece with autistic kids and autistic people. There is also room and argument that the world is too much for autistic people. And the sensory, there's overload sensory, there's too much feeling, there's too much to filter through, and it becomes too much. So it's not like, I know that some people in the autism community would not like this comparison because I think it's overused. But sorry for the geek moment. In Star Trek lore, the reason that Vulcans are disconnected from their emotion and they're so cerebral is because it was a reaction to a highly violent and emotionally driven culture. And so it was a conscious choice to move away from that. And so sometimes you'll hear some of that comparison. And so I would actually say that there is a high level of emotion that is in, and there's a too muchness that happens in autistic people, and there's a coping that happens of a withdrawing to protect themselves. And so it becomes a discussion around like, how do we love people well? How do we make space for people? You know, how do we understand ourselves? How do we give language to and not other people? You know, so yeah, like I have
I'm all like, psh, 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 like all the fireworks are going off. That is a fascinating thought because for so many reasons, and I have so many people in my life that we're always kind of laughing like, is that like their thing?
Well,
is that my thing?
I don't know.
It's narcissism, as everybody says.
I just, what'd you say?
Everybody says now, like, is that your tism? Like, is that your like thing, you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Especially people who have like somebody who's in their family has been diagnosed. They'll lovingly refer to it as that each person has their own tism. And that's where the whole spectrum thing comes. And like we flow in and out of things. Yeah. And
For sure.
behaviors, I guess. And it could all go environment, and it could go a million different ways.
And it could be societal, because it's not just one thing. It's all the things all together that kind of create that dynamic. Yeah.
I am not surprised that I look at my husband's Enneagram and I'm like, oh, WTF. Like,
You
literally,
can go have some discussions tonight.
look at his. I don't even know.
Ooh.
Like, it's in all three. That just, I feel like, and
There's
he's
so much fun in that.
and he said he's the
gosh.
person who knows how to like
Let
manipulate.
me ask you one question. Do you have a voice in your head that constantly criticizes you? Like it's almost on running commentary with everything that you do. It's always telling you you're not good enough. You should have done better. Like, that was wrong. Why did you say that?
Exactly like you.
Like, is that a thing for you?
Being a self-critic, not so much, but being someone who's always thinking about what is the optimal way to frame this or achieve
Okay.
what
Like,
usually.
but optimal framing and best way to do it is a problem-solving thing, not a self-critical. A one has an inner critic that is kicking their butt all over the place all the time and telling them that they are failing and not doing enough. Like, and so one of my first tests tested high, a 1 over a 3. And when we were first doing it, tested 1, but then when they put one, like a question head to head with 1 and 3 responses, I chose 3 every time. But I had to wrestle with the idea of, I don't have somebody in my head telling me I'm not great. Like I don't have an inner critic, which is funny because I need other people to affirm me, but I don't have a critic that's telling me that I'm not doing well. And the other thing about a 1 is a 1 has a very rigid black and white thinking about what is right and what is wrong. And it doesn't have to, and the right and wrong pendulum framework comes from whatever construct it needs to be. So like it doesn't have to be like a biblical right and wrong. It's just, but it's very black and white. So if those resonate with you, and then also 1 is part of the gut triad. So if you respond to things with like gut response as opposed to feeling, like so that's a good way to determine. An 8 is also in that gut triad. Like, but an 8 will tell you, an 8 is a truth teller, and they don't give a fuck about what you think about it.
I don't typically see him historically present that way. I mean, he loves to tell stories and he loves to tell facts and he loves to tell things that he thinks are true, whether they are factually true or not, because he believes they are. But those are what we call Tim-isms, because Tim is a master of believing what he thinks, which most people are. But like, he will literally make you believe it's truth. Like, he'll talk about quantum physics or whatever thing that no one knows anything about, but he supposedly knows all the things, and you will believe him by the time he's done.
Okay, let me ask you this.
And he believes himself
Because
too.
one of the other ones that's really high for you on here is a 5. 5. Okay, so
Is it your highest? Okay.
5s love knowledge.
Oh yeah, he does.
Love learning. Love
Accurate.
deep dive on
All day
whatever
long,
it is.
everything.
Whatever it is. And it's like, and it just, their bibliophile cannot get enough, whatever it is. Like, information, learning.
On Enneagram.
He was totally deep diving Enneagrams.
So, like, here's another thing. A 1 and an 8. A 1 is, so we were talking about how you show up in the world. An 8 is an aggressive number, like very forward. You walk into a room, you're going to take up space. I walk into a room, I take up space. Like 3, 7, and 8. My aunt was like, you are either a 3, 7, and 8 because you take up space.
Do I take up space when I walk into a room?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
A 1
I was wondering
is more like kind of in the middle. Like, they'll step up and take leadership if they need to, and they don't tolerate a lot of crap as far as like if things aren't being done well because they have a high perfectionism. But a 5 is more
weird.
like hanging back. like a 5 doesn't take up a lot of room. Like more, like just more kind of in the background. But if you sat them down and asked the right question, they will tell you all their knowledge, like about a subject. And they can also be unaware of when the people's eyes have glazed over.
I really had to learn that.
So it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Like there's all these ways, there's all these avenues to help kind of filter down like what
He said I really had to learn that. That's facts.
A five that taking the world through thinking, through logic, through like rational sort of headspace. And so
He's like, I feel seen right now.
So that would be when I would say, take this book and read all about the 8, read about the 1, read about the 5, see which one makes
That
more
would
sense.
explain why when you take the disc test, why you show up in the D with the 8, because that's like, I feel like the D lives in the 8 area, the 8 and 9.
And I don't know enough about that modality.
And I feel like, okay, so someone who likes to be social or like likes to be in the, in all of it, like the party or let's go do fun things, where would that be here on the
7
Enneagram?
or a 3.
Okay. So, all right. So that would be maybe the I kind of situation. That would
and-
make sense because I have the 3 as well and I have the 8. I'm trying to correlate it to really find a true pulse.
And so like if you're saying I have a 3 and I have an 8 as these are 2 numbers that I'm considering as my primary core thing, then it's not, but see that test again is like, okay, so 2's probably not your number, right?
Right.
But
He's really low on 2.
8 and 3 or 1, 8 and 5, those are ones that you should be really considering as a high possibility. Like those are where you start to evaluate. And so like even when you're like, well, 3 came up, I've got a 3. Well, 3 is one of those that you need to like think about and like look at the motive and look at how you receive the world. Is it through feelings? Like I'm highly intuitive about people's emotions. Like,
I am.
Like I'll look at them and I'll be like, oh, that really hit hard, didn't it? Like, or like, and I can just read it. Now,
and where does that hit? Where is
that's
that?
a 3.
Oh,
like
interesting.
the feeling triad, 2, 3, 4. So like
My 4 was low, but my 3 was ish. Right?
So it's just diving in so much.
I'm like
so
putting my
much.
foot to the ground. Am I feeling the vibrations of this is a good thing or a bad thing? Is the herd coming? Are they coming for me? Or are they running away? Silence.
So my understanding of an 8 and some of the origin of that is that very young, they realized that nobody was going to take care of them. And that the people that were supposed to take care of them weren't really going to show up well. And so they were like, I don't really need you people. I can take care of myself. And y'all are crazy. And so there's some of that can be an origin story for an 8.
Interesting. I am so going to deep dive into this. This will be a little temporary fixation, babe, while I wait to garden again because it's coming up on January and I'm about ready to go back into gardening and that is my safe space. That is my
refuel.
Where I re-energize and come back into my self. But I'm definitely interested in looking at this with you later. We love to do deep dives together. Tim and I could go on and on and on about.
I think you should get this book.
Yeah, totally.
I think that would be a good place to start.
Well, we definitely will. Well, thank you for being amazing because I've literally had so much fun with you. I think I could literally just
keep
for days. Yeah, I think we should press the to be continued button and we will talk
I won't
again.
think of anything else as soon as the camera's off right away. I'll try not to.
All right.